what we're seeing right now in gold is pretty much unprecedented. They've lost control of the gold market. They're doing what they can. We know that the high open interest, to keep it down, but it's going up and is recovering, incredibly. And it's going to find its way into silver.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special interview. Today we have a returning guest, Bill Murphy. You know him as the chairman of the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, but you may not also know that he has a daily commentary over at Le Metropole Cafe. Links to both of the websites will be in the description below. And if you find yourself in the fortunate enough situation to be a charitable person and have a few surplus fiat dollars, I would highly recommend sending a few of them over to Gada's Way. Bill Murphy, thank you for joining us again on Silver Doctors.
Thanks for having me here, Paul.
Bill, I just wanted to start to get an update with the state of the manipulation here in mid-2019, because it seems to me that every week we're getting now news of some bank that's been either pleading guilty or has been charged with either spoofing or in one way or another manipulating the markets. And one of the things that I don't understand is, why is the manipulation case not put to rest yet? The proof is absolutely clear. At GATA, you've been documenting it for years. So could you maybe speak to the audience as to what's going on? How do you see the state of manipulation in 2019? And why is this still an issue that some people will just not accept?
Well, God has been taking on the most richest and powerful people in the world. In this particular case, I call them the Gold Cartel. It's the United States government, the Fed, the Treasury, the bullion banks, other central banks, and so on. And the press and a lot of the leaders in the gold silver industry just don't want to go up against these people. And it's so the manipulation is beyond obvious. And yes, you've had people like the Merrill Lynch case convicted of manipulation and rigging and so on. It's great to see that in print because it gets people shaking their nodding their heads, yeah, what's going on. But quite frankly, that's just like it's Mickey Mouse compared to what's really going on in terms of what they're doing in the derivatives markets to suppress the gold and silver prices. So God is going to stay on the case, and one day when it blows up, it's going to be a mega deal. In the meantime, we're trying to get as much exposure as possible, and the spoofing kind of stuff that you're talking about and the convictions really helps. And that's the CFTC is a joke. It's like there's supposed to be a sheriff. They're not. They can't find anything wrong, and yet you've got these other cases. But these cases come about because it's the little guy that's thrown to the wolves, and it's the entire Justice Department isn't in on the rigging. So a lot of these cases are so obvious that these people get convicted, and the reason comes out of why they're doing it, and then that's all you hear about it.
Mm-hmm. It almost sounds to me like, everybody, government included, has limited resources. So it sounds like that any of the attention and resources that are dedicated to fighting the manipulation is dedicated to the little guy, like you're saying, as opposed to going after some of these more systemic issues that are at play in the market.
Well, from GATA's standpoint, the United States government's behind it. As my colleague Chris Powell says, they would rather release the nuclear secrets than what they're doing in the gold market. And you've got J.P. Morgan, which we'll get into on the silver side, rigging the silver market all these years. It's the Fed's bank. So, and a lot of these CFTC people want to go on in the financial industry and get other jobs down the road. So they don't want to muck up the waters and go against these people, and that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm. And on silver for a moment, you have referred to, I believe in the past, the concept of the cartel going on a managed retreat, meaning what I understand is that they are able to allow the price to rise in increments because, they obviously have to source some physical metal to provide to the paper markets. Are you still looking at the cartel in a managed retreat mode, or are you looking more that they're going to hold on as long as they can and then it's just going to fail spectacularly? Or how do you see this playing out here moving forward, Bill?
Well, it's we had a managed retreat from 2001 to 2011 in gold. It was up 12 years in a row. And now I think what we could be upon in the gold market is historic, and then it's eventually going to lead to what's going to happen in silver. But I've never seen anything like this before. We've had gold rally $160 over a 5-week period. And the thinking on my part has been, and other people, the physical market that the gold cartel is used to, supply the market to keep the price down, to add to their derivatives selling, and the futures market is drying up. And that is what we felt has been the case for the last 5 weeks. And after every gold dip, it gets bought. And we just don't see this kind of action. And then what happened Sunday night, where they opened up the gold price down $25 for no reason. It wasn't because of the trade talks, because there wasn't a big change there. And stock market had been going up forever. It's not like it was this unexpected happening. And so they decided to bomb the market and see if they could, what they could do. And I expected the gold open interest to collapse like it's done in the past, because it has come off at 1440 high, and they get the specs to go out, and then the bad guys cover and average down their profits and sell how they make all their money. Instead, for the first time I can ever recall, the gold open interest went up 10,000 contracts. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And then today, instead of getting follow through like would normally be the case, gold makes up one of its biggest moves imaginable and recovers, at least the last time I looked, everything they lost yesterday except for a couple of dollars. That never happens. And in my opinion, we're in the beginning stages of something historic here in gold, and the gold price is going to go bonkers, that somebody big is taking on the bad guys, as I call them. And it's after gold has broken out of a 6-year base, which a lot of people have talked about, and they didn't want that to happen. So they've got a big problem right now, and that's why the gold open interest is close to historic all-time highs.
Mm-hmm. They do have a big problem right now. And one of the things that I wrote about yesterday is I think that this week is very critical from the cartel's point of view, because I feel that with the market, with the markets being shortened because of the July 4th holiday, and with the jobs report coming out on Friday, they have plenty of eyes that are going to be away from the markets, so they can come in and carpet bomb the market and off hours and do all the standard things that they've been doing to suppress the price. Do you see this week as a critical week if the cartel is able to be successful in managing price down this week? And then again, what also happens if the cartel is unable to manage price down, and what happens if we can get the breakout in gold to continue? I'm looking right now, and I think I've got a last price of 1410 in gold. So yes, it has recovered that unnatural gap down from Sunday. Right?
I see this every time I clicked on the sites to see what the gold price was. It was higher. I never can ever recall that. I mean, I'm just stunned.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think that the week is going to play out? Do you see that the cartel's going to be looking to smash price at every chance that they can this week, with the short week because of the holiday and with the jobs report on Friday?
Well, that's the way it started out, as we saw on Sunday night and Monday, and they went all out. And now to have this go against them like this, it may be unprecedented. And I think, as it turns out, this week, for this reason alone, it's pivotal. And normally in the past, a lot of times on a jobs report day, they've used it to attack the gold price, the gold cartel, no matter what the report was. Of lately, that hasn't happened as much. And if we're still ongoing through Friday, it tells us that something mega is in the works, and not just a rally, something mega. And who knows what could be going on behind the scenes, but it's powerful and it's unprecedented.
You've spoken about, I think the number that you're looking at in silver right now is $21. In all of 2018, it seems like the line was almost 1750, where they would just not let silver get above that. Are you still looking at $21 as an important price level for the price of silver, which could lead to a potential explosive move to 25 and then to 50? Or what price levels are you looking at in silver right now, Bill?
Right now, I'd be happy if they let silver get through 1550, for crying out loud. It's really a joke. You've got the gold silver ratio at 93. I think in part of this thing with gold, something is so wrong that they're going berserk trying to keep the silver price down. And it's just, you get silver up $25, gold up $25, silver up 8 cents. Are you kidding me? And I'm a big silver bull. I've been talking about $100 silver for years, and that couldn't be more off. a year and a half ago, I said I found something very wrong with the silver market and reported it, and it's still something very wrong. They're petrified of losing control of the price. My feeling is, maybe it's wrong, that the gold price is going to go nuts with the physical market leading away because their supplies have dried up. At some point, Morgan's got to start looking at each other with their short positions, and the industry is very complacent now about getting physical supply. All of a sudden, they're going to go after physical supply at the same time, which it will be drying up, and then you're going to have the investors come in to buy cheap silver because of what's coming, and the market's going to start to explode. And in my opinion, it's been this way for a couple of years now, at least, that 21 is the key. If it gets through 21, it'll shoot for 50 faster than anybody can imagine, and then we're on our way to 100. In the meantime, somebody's got to take on this JP Morgan crowd and blow them up.
Excellent points there. Because that's part of my feelings too with something's wrong with silver, because it seems like that, they're really holding on to silver just to help, like, the people who still don't accept the fact that there's the manipulation going on, to say, oh, the breakout in gold is not real because silver is not confirming that move. Then the other thing that I find interesting with the gold to silver ratio is, I, for one, have been of the feeling that the ratio could get to parity eventually, but I feel that the natural ratio is something that would even be possible with a 9-to-1 coming out of the ground. The Coinage Act of 1792 established a 16-to-1 ratio when we had our bimetallic gold and silver standard. How do you see the gold to silver ratio playing out here, Bill? And do you have a target where you ultimately see it headed?
Well, it's a good point, and it's a very good point you made about why they're holding the silver price down, because because that's why they rigged it in the first place, because they couldn't have gold go one way and silver go the other. And then how would they explain the rigging of the gold price? And that's how they got so involved in silver. When it comes to what it can go to, I think when they lose control of silver, it will be a sight to behold. And you can pick a number. I mean, even if it went to 50, my gosh, what would the silver price be going to? And so I think that's a minimum, and there's no reason it can't get down to the numbers you're talking about as it gets it, the price just there's no stopping the price when it gets going to what's the word, hyperinflation levels or whatever it is, like it did in 1980 and in 2011. Silver's a weird market. It'd be nowhere and then it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, I've been thinking about over the past few days, since it's coming up on the 4th of July holiday, is that, the Constitution specifically names gold and silver. And, the Constitution says that Congress should fix the standard for weights and measures. And we know that the dollar was originally and is supposed to be defined as a specific weight and purity of silver and gold. So, one of the things that I think about is by not having the constitutionally required bimetallic gold and silver standard, right, we don't have a measure for our money that is stable, right? Like 60 seconds is a minute, 60 minutes is an hour, and that's true throughout time, right? Just like 12 inches is a foot, and that's true throughout time. But the dollar, since it's no longer defined as a specific weight and purity of silver, it seems to me that we're losing some of the most essential abilities to live with freedom and liberty as we approach the 4th of July, because freedom obviously is not being locked up, but liberty is being able to conduct your own business and your own personal affairs. But if you don't have the proper measure of our money as the basis for anything, then how can you really be celebrating liberty this 4th of July when the freedom of being able to use your money is not there anymore, because we have a debt-based fiat currency system. I've been spending my 4th of Julys with bittersweetness over the past couple years. What do you think about when you think about a gold and silver standard, especially as we're approaching the 4th of July holiday this week?
Well, gold and silver was set up by our forefathers for a reason, and they're afraid what the government might do. And that's what they've done. And the price was fixed for many years, but things really changed in the Vietnam War time, where the U.S. started printing money like crazy, and they'd fixed the price at 35, and then at least at 42, and they had taken away in the Gold Reserve Act that individuals, had to turn in their gold, the United States, and the Fed had to give its gold to the Treasury. And of course, then that changed because in the 70s, foreign banks were coming in. They could still get our gold for dollars, and so that they wanted to take our gold was all being sent away to foreign countries, especially as known by France and de Gaulle and so on. So they had to let the gold price go, and that's when the gold price shot up, above $100 and from 35, 42, and that sort of thing. And everybody was looking at gold as an inflation vehicle, and silver also in terms of protection because of all the inflation. Well, when from 74, let's say, to 1980, you got gold at 850, silver at 50. That showed when the United States is printing too much money or not doing the right fiscal things, what really is going on, and people bought gold and silver to protect themselves. Then things calmed down. Then we got going again in 2001, and this is the reason they rigged the price. Gold and silver are barometers of U.S. financial market health. Paul Volcker once said, "Gold up is bad, gold down is good," and so they're always trying to use the psychology of, look, things aren't so bad because look at the gold price. You hear commentators on TV talk about it all the time. If gold went up $100 tomorrow, everybody would look around and say, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" So they've been suppressing the gold price these last years, and now they're starting to lose control. And that's why they're going so bonkers with silver. And it gets back to one of your initial questions about there's no free press in America. We can't even be discussed. I mean, who would have thought that? I mean, that's supposed to be the way it is in China, not in the United States. People may not agree with us, but at least it could be presented what God has to say. No, it's not allowed. So it's very scary, and especially what they could be doing, and I think they are doing, in all the financial markets in the U.S. in terms of rigging. They're trying to keep things totally copacetic and the stock market going up. And geez, now you've got the yield on the 10-year T-note at 1.98%. It's tanking. That's supposed to be a healthy economy? I don't think so. In my opinion, something is very wrong behind the scenes. It's why they've gone into excessive rigging. Somebody is taking them out in the gold market, and silver's next.
Mm-hmm. And when you bring up the 10-year, that's an excellent point, because a lot of people are saying that, these expected rate cuts are getting priced into the bond market. And excuse me, my point is that I don't think that the price of silver is getting priced in for anything yet. So there, in addition just to the general explosiveness, there is a lot of pricing that still has to be done for when the Fed actually begins cutting rates. Do you see that happening as well, where gold might be starting to, in addition to, catching the bid for the political uncertainty that's around the world and the economic uncertainty, do you think that there's also going to be silver's possibility to pricing in Fed rate cuts coming up soon?
Well, again, in my opinion, it's just my humble opinion, what we're seeing right now in gold is pretty much unprecedented. They've lost control of the gold market. They're doing what they can. We know that with the high open interest, to keep it down, but it's going up, and it's recovering, incredibly, and it's going to find its way into silver. It's my opinion that J.P. Morgan's behind it. They let this to make something I think it's really important to understand. When silver went to 50 in 2011, the gold open interest was 135,000 contracts, basically all the way up to the very end. Today, it's 220,000 contracts. That is how much, and this is at a low price. Normally, when you get a low price of a commodity, open interest collapses. The hedgers aren't interested in hedging. The specs aren't interested. Now you've got it not far from all-time highs. That is the Gold Cartel, J.P. Morgan, going bonkers, suppressing the price. If gold keeps going like this, they're just not going to be able to stay with what they're doing. I mean, it's already ridiculous.
If they're not able to keep price down this week, do you see that things are looking up through the rest of the summer? Or do you think if they can succeed in keeping price down, that we would be experiencing what people like to call the summer doldrums? Because it's been anything but doldrums this summer. It's been very exciting especially over the past month.
Yeah, and especially today from the last time I looked at gold. And I just think it's, look, I've been looking for silver to take off for years, and the price action is actually getting worse, not better. The more gold goes up, the more they dig in with silver. At some point, it's just going to blow up. And J.P. Morgan is going to have to run for the hills, and we just haven't seen it yet. But it's coming, And when it comes, as we talked about earlier, we're not going to have a managed retreat. When silver goes, it's going to be bonkers.
Bill Murphy, I'd like to thank you for joining us today on silverdoctors.com. What can you leave our listeners with today about some exciting events that GATA might have coming up where we can learn more about your work?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that one of the most important things for people to understand is that gold and silver have been held at artificially low prices for a long time. They are the cheapest assets in the world. The risk-reward ratio is the best. I've seen them been saying that in gold all this time, and silver, of course, is even more so now. So it's something to understand that to know what GATA knows is to understand why the gold and silver prices can go to where they're going to go, because they shouldn't be here. And when Newton's law kicks in, you're going to get this equal and opposite reactions. In terms of what's GATA doing, a lot of these conferences, even though in my opinion, is the most important reason to go to a gold conference is to understand what the prices are doing and why. A lot of them are afraid of us now, and they don't invite us. But Chris Powell and I will be in New Orleans at Brian London's conference at the beginning of November, and we're looking forward to that. And we're looking to spread the word any way we can on the internet, and just speak to anybody who really is interested in finding out what's really going on in the gold and silver markets.
Bill Murphy, thank you for joining us today on Silver Doctors.
Thank you, Paul. Been my pleasure.